welcome to Reykjavík Roundup, where usually me, Alasdair, and Sindri try to round up last week's news in Iceland, but this time around, Alasdair is, let's put it mildly, accurately.
He's in jail.
He's in jail.
No.
he got scooped up finally for being too much of a journalist. Now he's sick, and in his place is his co-worker and a face familiar to this YouTube channel / podcast offshoot of the Reykjavík Grapevine.
Oh, that is what we are, isn't it?
Yep.
The YouTube channel.
The former editor-in-chief of the Reykjavík Grapevine, Valur Grettisson.
Hi.
Hi.
Hey.
So I think before we dive into the news, I think we have to maybe answer a few questions for the audience. Like, where the hell have you been over the past few years?
Yeah, it's like it's always a surprise when you disappear from the States.
Yeah.
That you don't like completely disappear, like that you're in some like void just for 2 or 3 years. Now I've been just working as a journalist at RÚV, the national broadcast first, which was quite something. And then I went to Heimildin as a journalist just to write and basically to take Pollý with me.
Mm-hmm.
So that was more
Pollý
or less
is here on the floor.
Yeah, he's lying on the floor.
It's not a new drug that you've discovered.
Yeah,
I was ready to take Pollý with you.
The sister drug of Molly.
Yeah.
Now, yeah, and like that's more or less what I've been doing. It's just news, like always. It's not much to say actually.
On this podcast, we refer to on this podcast we refer to Heimildin as the source, the 90s hip hop magazine.
Yes, exactly.
But yeah, investigative journalism at large.
Yeah,
that's
right.
what you do.
Yeah. And one of the last news magazines in Iceland actually, which is quite something. So
yeah, the final frontier of journalism, basically.
A little bit, yeah, in my opinion at least.
Guys,
were there any others historically?
Can I ask you guys to move a little closer to your mics so
Jesus.
people don't miss out on us here?
Yes, there have been quite some magazines throughout the years, but I mean, it's a sad, long, and very weird history of just failed magazines. So.
Yeah, and just the appalling state of journalism in Iceland, basically.
Right, it's the same thing happening here as like everywhere else.
Yeah, all the traditional media outlets have slowly disappeared or been sort of just turned into like shell operations of their former selves.
It's a suffocating market, and therefore, like the only people that are left in this market, money-wise, are delusional billionaires that think that they can somehow buy like
is there
people's
any
opinions.
other kind?
Yeah, right. I mean, I would appreciate it to meet a billionaire that is not completely delusional.
No, it tends to happen quite fast.
Yeah, right.
I always think about this quote from Hassan Minhaj, who was one of those hosts at the Daily Show once, where he was talking about billionaires and their tendency to be wanting to be heard in the sort of national discourse.
Right.
And he said we have to tax these billionaires, not only because it's fair, but just so they shut the fuck up.
Exactly. Do you want to higher taxes?
I fail to see how taxing them more would shut them up. Wouldn't that just make them squeal louder?
Yeah, perhaps. Could be.
I mean, look, the ones the ones closest to being actual billionaires here are squealing pretty loud now because the state's trying to shave a couple pennies off their.
Or their fishing.
Yeah, off their fucking
profits.
loot. Yeah.
And when we talk pennies, we're talking about billions, right?
Billions, yeah.
It's like just to put it in perspective.
Yeah, one man's penny is another man's billion.
Exactly.
Well, to them it seems to be pennies.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so that's kind of the market today. But luckily, Heimildin is one of the few ones that is not owned by a delusional billionaires, but journalists that I've worked with and known for decades. People that I started journalism with. So it's more like a family than anything else, actually.
Yeah, people who are. Is it a delusional pursuit to still be in journalism? Like,
yeah, right.
If you think about it.
That's a good question, actually. I mean, in a way, I mean.
Are we hoping things will actually get better? Are we?
What is your motivation? What's your angle here?
Why do people do this still?
I mean, it's always about the story in the end. It never gets tired, does it? I mean, I don't know, but it's just different ways to tell the stories. Today, the TikTok story is like 5 seconds or something.
Yeah.
That seems to be very like dominating everything now, and as well as our expansion. What do you call it? Like how to just have the focus for anything.
Yeah, people. Yeah, attention spans are
Yeah,
short,
exactly.
and it's very hard to make a complex and important story resonate, because it tends to be long and complicated.
Yeah.
And it's hard to get people to actually pay attention to that.
I mean, of course, that's. I think actually that's always been the problem. But good content is always good content, and I mean, a good story is always that.
Good story is always a good story, yeah.
But yeah, I was like on a meeting with the government in Iceland with other journalists, and we were waiting for them to, like, we were just hanging around and drinking coffee, and a journalist from Morgunblaðið said like, yeah, like I didn't read your new novel. I was like, my new novel? What are you talking about? The new article that you wrote, it's like, what, 10,000 words? I was like, oh, so it's hard for you to read? It's like, are you telling me that?
Did he use the Icelandic word kilja or skaldsaga?
Skaldsaga. Yeah.
Because in English that would translate to something that is by definition fiction.
Yeah, that's not what he. I actually, that was the first thing I had to clear up in the conversation.
It's a news story, not fiction.
No, it's a story.
Yeah, but I mean, he's on the side of the the management. He wants you to get bored.
Yeah, right.
They want you to stop paying attention.
I mean, Morgunblaðið is fine, but they are like owned by the fishing industry in Iceland, so it's delusional billionaires again.
Yeah,
it's funny that in a country where we have like a state-owned media, that we also have state-owned media, like that, and it's actually the actual state-owned media is sort of more. Yeah, I mean, I hesitate to go into definitions when I'm sitting in between two actual journalists. So feel free to pick up the sentence.
You're sitting next to one, and that's not me.
At what point will you start considering yourself a journalist? Like you run a paper, you founded it, you basically
maybe in my obituary.
Duly noted.
Some kind of a journalist.
Yeah. Some kind of a journalist. Worked in media. I want to start this on a very light note. There was a news story on Vísir about the oldest horse in Iceland. Did you guys see this one?
No. What? The oldest horse?
The oldest horse in Iceland is a horse. It's a he.
Okay.
His name is Sómi.
Okay.
How would you translate that, Sindri?
Sandwich.
All right.
I would say fine. Like
he's fine.
He's
yeah,
fine.
Fine-wich.
Fine-wich.
Yeah.
He's 36 years old.
36 years old.
What is he, an 89 model?
Wow.
I guess so.
Yeah.
80. Yeah.
That's an interesting age.
Those are spry. Those are full of fun.
It's also like when you think about it in when it comes to like Icelandic culture, it's like it's considered that you're young until you're 35 years old, and one of these like we can see this through the politics. For example, you can be in the youth like
the youth movements
of these political parties until you're 35. After that, you're adult. So this is my definition of like this is officially when you become an adult as well as middle-aged.
Isn't there like a guy in our cabinet now who's younger than this horse?
Wait a minute.
Not in the cabinet.
Right? How old is Kristinn Frostadóttir?
She's an 88 model. She's
a
a year older than the horse. Yeah. This horse is a year younger than our prime minister. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So according to the news story, Sómi, or Fine, has great.
You're not going with sandwich?
Still has good teeth and good hoofs, which is essential if you want to live longer as a horse. He's retired. He lives by Skógar, one of those waterfalls everybody seems to visit in Iceland, and just strolls around there eating grass and hanging out with a 30-year-old mare.
Wow.
Oh man, I sure wish I would have been doing all these things at 36.
Yeah, lucky horse.
Sounds delightful.
Eats grass, has good teeth, hooves. I mean, he's the envy of every man, really.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even have good hooves anymore.
No, fuck my hooves. Useless hooves.
Yeah, horses, I mean, I didn't know that they could be so old.
No, well, I remember them, like, where I'm from, there have been horses that I remember having gone past 30.
Yeah, okay.
But not very far
No.
past 30.
Yeah,
I mean-
I honestly had no idea. I had never even given it a second's thought. Like, you
Oh.
could have told me, like, oh, that horse is 100 years old. And I'm like, oh, really? or just like, yeah, horses all die at, at age 3 or something.
Yeah,
and I
yeah,
would be
yeah.
like, yeah, oh, that makes
That
sense.
makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Actually, they're born with the ability of being ridden. So you don't have to teach them anything. That's why they can get
They're
away with it.
ageless.
Yeah, they're
I guess
ageless.
that's why people like them so much, isn't it? They seem immortal.
Yeah, they seem immortal. They seem like a feature of the Icelandic landscape that doesn't go away like the mountains.
But did it say like how many like I don't know children horses how that is in English? How many horses has he had and so on? And, like,
nothing
how-
about it. Nothing
like-
about that.
Yeah, that's
like-
private information.
Yeah.
I mean, I know you
But-
journalists like to snoop around, but
But
I'm-
I think it's important because it's
he's
like
not a cabinet minister. He doesn't have
Yeah.
to disclose these things in a huge scandal.
it's like if you think about it, like he's obviously quite old. Like he's in his last years. He's like 80, 90 years old in human years. It's like what would you say was a fulfilled life? Like living a fulfilled life as a horse. I mean, I think like has he won a competition? Has he like? Are there no details in the story?
There are absolutely no details. He seems to have had a very sort of noticeable life. His main.
So it might be a miserable horse. It's like just 36 years old and like batshit
I
crazy
assume he's
racist or something.
I'm assuming since it sounded like he had been a riding horse, he's probably a gelding, so he probably doesn't have any offsprings.
Yeah.
But he hangs out with this mare. Is it platonic?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I mean, yeah. Unless he's rich, that can change things. If he is
Yeah.
a delusional billionaire, that will change things.
Well, what next? Over the weekend, should we introduce the Icelandic Socialist Party to our audience?
Oh yes.
Yeah, we've only mentioned them in passing before. Maybe this is the day that we dive a little deeper.
Yeah, we have a political party called the Socialist Party, basically. They are a socialist party, hence the name.
A lot of people in the party don't like that name, though, do they?
I have no idea.
It's one of the things they blame on how poorly they did in the last election.
They have been around for at least 2 or 3 parliamentary elections. They've never managed to reach the 5% threshold to get a MP in.
Mhm.
They have, however, reached the threshold to receive subsidies from the government.
And they have people in city council.
And they have people in city council in the majority right now in the city of Reykjavík.
Yeah, one of the Spice Girls is a socialist.
Yeah, that's what the majority in the municipality of Reykjavík is called, the Spice Girls.
Yeah, exactly.
A better name than the Socialist Party, some would argue, but
Yeah,
that's not for me to.
maybe also better than the name we've given to the majority coalition in parliament, which is the Valkyrs.
Ugh, I
Yeah.
hate that. Really hate that.
They've failed to get above the 5% threshold. The
Mhm.
party was founded by a former media
Mhm.
person called Gunnar Smári, whom well you used to work for him, right?
Yeah.
And I'm
He used to be my editor-in-chief.
yeah. I've sort of I've run across him in these 20 years of journalism.
Yeah. He's a
character.
He's a character. Yeah.
And what happened over the weekend was that I guess they had a central committee meeting. Doesn't that
Right.
sound very socialist?
No, well, yeah, exactly.
It sounds cooler than it probably looked.
Yeah.
It's actually like with the Socialist Party or Communist Party, it's like the most important venue that these parties have. It's like central something committees.
Can we call it the Politburo?
Yeah, you can do that.
So they had a sort of an election within the Politburo over the weekend where the founder Gunnar Smári was ousted.
I wouldn't say ousted. That's a little bit
Voted
dramatic.
out.
It was voted out in a democratic way, but it was quite a shock. Yeah, I mean, the Socialist Party has been up in arms for months now because of Gunnar Smári. And just to explain this character, before everything collapsed in the financial sector in Iceland, the media in Iceland was completely under the delusional billionaire territory.
Yeah.
And it was unbearable actually at points. he was working with one of these billionaires, and he was quite good at it. And he made like the first free newspaper, like daily newspaper in Iceland called Fréttablaðið. It's actually got bankrupt now today, just 2 years ago or something.
2 years ago.
Fréttablaðið is gone?
Yeah. Yes.
I'm being serious right now. Like, this is how, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It folded 2 years and 2 months ago.
Yeah.
After being in business since, I say, 2000, maybe?
2001, I think.
2001, yeah.
And it actually went bankrupt, again.
We won the feud. Grapevine is still around, and they're gone.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, we should mention that. When they were...
Because they hated us.
So when,
I say us because I was actually writing for the paper.
So put this into his perspective. When all the media in Iceland were run by these billionaires, we were running stories about how this Icelandic economic miracle maybe didn't really make a lot of sense. And
well, it did in a booming time when everybody was advertising, and the delusional billionaire had actually the 50% of the companies that were advertising.
Yeah.
So it was a good combination.
Yeah, but we were running these stories, and we were getting sort of burnt by Fréttablaðið.
Yeah.
I think the one I remember was an op-ed called the Reykjavík Grapevine.
Yeah.
As in whining.
Cunningly crafted.
Yeah.
Wasn't that, what's his name, the minister who is now in the Socialist Party?
Yeah, that's the ordained minister and former stand-up comedian.
Former drunk.
Davíð Þór Jónsson.
Yeah.
Who was writing op-eds for the... he's now in the Socialist Party, so I guess he's kind of sees the world differently now. But anyway, just to put us into this perspective that was unnecessary and derailed your story. So
it's going to happen a lot in this podcast.
No problem. But of course, Gunnar Smári was not very smart with money, and this became evident in the end. For example, the paper I was working at called Fréttatíminn.
Yeah.
Fréttablaðið, like you don't understand Icelandic, I guess it sounds the same, but there's a difference there. Fréttatíminn was actually a pretty
the newspaper versus the news hour time.
Right.
News time.
And Fréttatíminn was like in 2015, 16, 17 when he was there.
Yeah.
And that went completely bankrupt. And he is like he's been criticized heavily by many for being not very smart with money. I mean, he has his like, for example, when everything collapsed in Iceland, the Fréttablaðið got into a lot of problems because of Gunnar Smári's investment before. He bought like the most massive print magazine in Europe, I think. And he also founded this Danish newspaper. What was it called?
Nyhedsavisen.
Nyhedsavisen.
Yeah, basically
right.
Fréttablaðið or the newspaper in Danish.
He was trying to going McDonald's with it, like franchise it in other countries. That failed spectacularly, and yeah, so like he has a spotted past, of course, but in short, he is quite brilliant in many ways. But I mean, But anyways, in the end, he became a socialist, which was the weirdest thing. We did not see that coming, because when I was growing up as a journalist, like in the 2000s, it was all about like borderline nihilism. It was like journalism. That was an idea from him that, like, for example, Devaf, was like a tabloid magazine in Iceland, not like Kim Kardashian tabloid. It was like very harsh.
Yellow press.
Old school yellow press, like in the UK, basically. All of his ideas was basically like going like you don't have a conviction, or it's basically nihilism on steroids.
Yeah. Okay.
And this fitted well with his his contribution with delusional billionaires. So keep the theme here, and therefore and basically when he became a socialist, I mean, I was quite surprised. I was like, okay, like that's a twist. But he founded the party, which is not easy, and he carried the party on his shoulders for the longest time.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, he got results for sure. That's definitely like that. But he is a very
people might argue with that. I mean,
Well, he got money from the government every year. It's like, what is it, 20 millions? It's
something at least.
Yeah, it's like $100,000 if you wanted to.
I'm not saying I argue with it. Like I'm impressed by what he's accomplished for sure. But yeah, I think people are sort of the opinion that he, you know.
Yeah, then we come to like just basic character flaws. Like he is obviously a very dominated character and such, and this has been a massive problem in the party.
Yeah. He is. He's used to be in control of whatever discourse is going on. That's his kind of thing. But yeah, it's classic left-wing politics, I guess.
He has a show
like in the sense that there's always so much infighting.
Yeah, right.
So
and what happened basically was that like the young socialists, like what do you call it, like youth. What do you call it that in English?
The youth arm of the party.
Yeah, youth arm of the party. They went. Yeah, they went full ballistic on him, and it was interesting because what they did was basically just in a democratic way. Just they took power from these people, and they did so with like calling people, urging them to come to the meeting and vote like they want to, and they even had a cheat note. And the cheat note was really impressive, I have to say. It's been in the media now today and yesterday. And it's basically just like it's so simple instruction that even I was like, okay, I could do that. It's really simple how to do this.
Do you remember off the top of your head what it was?
It was like, first of all, like who is going like to take charge of the meeting? It's like who is like saying like next thing is gonna, what do you call it, like fundarstjóri?
Cheering the meeting. Who's gonna cheer?
He's gonna chair the meeting, yeah. And then they had like this is the name. He will run. Choose him. So they took power from the first minute. And it was very well set up, in my opinion. Like, and I've been watching politics for like 20 years now, and I was like, "This is incredibly interesting."
Wow!
And I mean, when I was like 25 years old, I would not have managed to do this. So, I mean,
hats off to
the youth kids, you know, and they just took power. But the thing is, of course, here's the problem also. When you like taking power is actually easier than like wielding them and keeping them. Yeah. So it's like now it's like, what are you gonna do now? It's like,
I guess we'll see.
Yeah. Perhaps Gunnar Smári was actually what needed to keep this madness together somehow.
Yeah, it's a lot of
components.
It's hard to keep a political party together.
Yeah.
Especially on the left.
Exactly.
And it's at least in this country. So we'll see how this lasts.
And historically, like Socialist Party is very off-brand for Iceland since the Cold War. We haven't had anything like this for decades. I'm not sure that Icelanders resonate much with it, but it definitely needs. There is a hole on the market on the left wing for sure. After the left-green party went away.
I've made the joke repeatedly that like majority of Icelanders are actually socialists at heart, sort of like Scandinavian socialists.
They just wouldn't use that word.
But they wouldn't use the word.
Yeah.
But there's never like a properly sort of socialist party for them to vote for. That's kind of an ongoing joke I have. I'm not entirely sure it's not doesn't have to be accurate, obviously. But,
it's not. I think.
Yeah, I mean the Social Democrats, which are basically in power now.
They're not really a socialist.
They are centrists by Iceland standards, which I think by sort of most people's standards would be relatively left-leaning.
I think the Icelandic heart has been there for decades. Historically, it shows us that. Or slightly to the right, which is basically the Independence Party, but we are like opportunists in heart. Yeah, that's what we are.
But most left-wing parties in Iceland that have managed to stay in power, they implode.
Yeah,
they tend to implode. That's the history of left-wing parties in Iceland.
Yeah, when they're like not in the center, when they go well to the left, they tend to be, go weird. But VFG, the left-green party, they looked fine for the first years in cabinet, but they completely messed up by, I guess, not being left enough or something. Also, just it's like hugging when the Independence Party hugs you. It's like suffocating.
You wither away.
You will wither away and die.
Yeah. It is the cold hug of the Independence Party.
Yeah, they like suck the life out of you.
Yeah,
sustain themselves for another 5 years.
Like a political vampire.
You wither away.
Man, so I have you guys can pick and choose, but I was kind of intrigued by, there was like an architect complaining about so-called surveillance towers. So up on Skógar.
Yeah, we call those churches. You should tell that person. It's how God watches us. Aren't churches really just God's surveillance towers?
I assume so, yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm going to let you actually get to the joke before
They are, and in that metaphor, we are all in sort of a massive open-air jail. Yeah. And this is some sort of a Foucault joke.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't look good, does it?
For God? No. I mean, it's a bad look for God.
It's a hard competition. He doesn't need one in Iceland, that's for sure.
So the news story is that due to pickpocketing,
which is a fairly new problem, by the way. It's so new that it started like a month ago.
Yeah, it's very new. And in areas that tourists frequent, like in and around the big church in Reykjavík and in Þingvellir, the old parliament site, pickpockets have been a problem in the past few months, I guess. So in order to counter this, some sort of a surveillance tower, according to the news story, a visual.
It's got to be pretty big if it can see Skógar and Þingvellir.
Yeah.
Are they going to put it on top of one of those windmills?
So some sort of a visual monstrosity has been put up, and there was an architect interviewed on Vísir over the weekend about this, and he kind of hit the most sensitive Icelandic nerve when he said that he was pretty sure it was so ugly that tourists would make fun of Icelanders for having it there.
That was his concerns.
Yeah, that was his concern.
Yeah.
Well,
they might make fun of us.
And I think
where were these concerns during the boom years? Like, people are going to make fun of us.
Yeah, I mean, this is a nation that believes in elves. I'm not sure that we're that bothered by this.
Do we really believe in elves? Like, is that the general consensus?
No, it's
Is it the majority opinion?
No, it's like
there have been polls.
There has been polls. They are not quite accurate. Reported like in
I also think that if you get polled that way, you're just gonna say yes out of spite.
Yeah.
Do you?
You poll me, I troll you. I also believe in trolls. Do you? Yeah.
Okay, let's not get sucked in the elf thing.
Why not?
With these
I hate
boxes,
the fucking elves.
with the boxes, which are undeniably ugly. I agree with this architect. He has a point when it comes to how ugly it is. But that said, I think Reykjavík can afford to have a little bit more of security cameras. Not only because of the pickpocketing, but also there is like 70% of violence that happens in Iceland happens on these 3 streets here on Saturdays and Sunday nights, Friday and Saturday night. Yeah. I mean, I don't have an issue with it. I mean, if you're gonna catch some Bulgarian pickpocketers, then fine. But of course, this is a bigger problem that it's also like these gangs. They are like international almost today. They go by countries from country to country. Iceland is like ridiculously innocent when it comes to all of this. But we need basically better protection on our borders. It's as simple as that.
I also think that, like, you know, the fight against ugly buildings in Reykjavík was lost decades and decades ago. Like, we can stand to have a few more eyesores around here.
So I think we can like, instead of, well, we can talk about architecture, but it's just kind of demoralizing. But we can segue this straight into another story from this week, which is the police chief of the international airport just left his job last week. And
well, it's not that simple, is it?
No, it's a little more complex. And he's one of those guys that you, at least after the fact, you realize it's better to have him on the inside peeing out than on the outside peeing in, because he's been sort of rampaging in the media since his departure. I think the most colorful quote I remember hearing from anybody this year was from him, where he was describing, I guess, his superiors in the police force and in the Ministry of Justice as, and he said, I quote, "The further up the tree, I guess the ladder of whatever,
let's just leave the interpretation for later. Let's just translate the quote.
The further up the tree the monkey goes, the easier it is to see its asshole.
I like it. I like this guy.
But some of the things he was talking about is he was talking about specifically
border control.
Border control, and he maintains that Schengen has basically failed, and he maintains that the Icelandic state has not been keeping up with border control, has not made sure that the border control receives passenger manifests from the airlines,
right.
And
which they are required to do by law,
and therefore
they're not following that.
Therefore, there has been sort of a general failure in making sure that people that shouldn't be coming into the country for crime reasons, say pickpocketers, they've been getting into the country with ease. So that was his.
So we start with like
and then leaving again with the contents of some tourist pockets.
Yeah.
So we start just with Úlfar and like his position. Does anybody cares about that in the world?
His name is Úlfar Lúðvíksson. He was the chief police of Suðurnes, the southwest of Iceland, the whole peninsula on which you can find the international airport and the Grindavík surrounding area where the eruptions happen.
To the foreigners listening to this, it's where the airport and the Blue Lagoon are. That's pretty much all you need to know. And the volcano.
And he is the best known chief of police because he's been repeatedly on the media during these eruptions and all those things. And
about the name, like his name is like wolves in plural. We have two ways to say this.
There are two wolves, and both of them are him.
Yeah. So like this guy is like a police officer from the 90s. He is old school in many ways. There have been like I haven't heard that there is anything like umdeilt, controversial.
No.
When it comes to this border thing, it's all obviously in shambles. And when it comes to Schengen, in a way, of course, it's a work in progress. It isn't perfect all the time. And yes, they have been failing in some ways, I guess, or the criminals are getting smarter by going between countries because like these kind of people, they are coming to Iceland. For example, I interviewed Úlfar actually about this. I was the first one that actually said about the border control. And he was just explaining, for example, like people are coming to Iceland and there are like obvious signs, like they don't have a booked hotel, like simple. They are not here to do anything else than go and do some mischievous, and so on. So he has been controversial, but about this in some ways, I mean, it's hard to talk about racism in this case. It's not anything when it comes to. He's very afraid of the dog. He hasn't been like messing.
Dislike is not fear.
Yeah, he hasn't been messing with like what do you call it, like the few refugees and so on. So it's not about that.
He's just an old school.
Yeah, but the cabinet, the Ministry of Justice has been changing he's changing the office basically, and she offered him another job, and he decided not to take it. That's the scandal here. But when it comes to, of course, I don't know, like this political way, it's basically like we have this middle party, these alt-right characters, not parties, but there are characters here, and they are trying to make some like drawing lines there between this, and it's not very convincing to be honest.
No, he's colorful. I enjoy him.
Yeah, I mean,
I used to work for him actually.
Really?
Yeah.
When you were as a lawyer?
No, and he was a police officer in the Westfjords.
He was in the Westfjords.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Lovely guy.
Yeah, he's actually fun. I mean, I always talk to him. I never get like when he was trying to call like as a journalist, calling these police officers and like hearing like what's happening, like getting some information. Nobody answered me, but Úlfar always did. And I finally took him. I said, like, why in the hell are you, like, the police commissioner, the only one that picks up the phone in this embassy? And he was like, yeah, that's weird, isn't it? Like, do something about it.
No, I mean...
and he probably told them off, if I know him right.
He was, like, during these, you and me both have been going to Grindavík a lot over the past couple of years. I mean,
but that's how it should be. Sorry,
Yeah.
but I mean that's how it should be, right? I mean the police and the press. It's like you help each other do each other's jobs.
Yeah.
Like,
well, they don't see it like that, but
well,
if they don't, they shouldn't fucking be in law enforcement. Like if the press needs to be kept out of it, you're probably doing something wrong.
yeah, that's true.
Well,
I agree.
Yeah, so he's been very like when it comes to like, you know, shooting him emails to get information. He's been very fast and smooth.
It's brilliant.
Yeah, he's nice. Although his sort of policies towards closing off Grindavík,
they were messed
the
up.
press have been criticized.
And that has been actually the untold story here is that there has been clashes between like the what do you call it, Almannavarnir?
The civil defense, I think it's called.
The civil defense in Iceland, as well as this embassy, this office has been like clashing because the police commissioners, they have a lot of powers, way much in these areas. So the civil defense has been, they have not been talking together.
They have not been sort of seeing eye to eye with how the closures should be conducted and stuff like that sometimes.
It's an unprecedented situation, sort of.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's a rough one. So it's kind of, and I kind of get it. Like what he was criticized most for was, you know, by a colleague, even a photographer, was that he did not allow the press in for the evacuation of Grindavík, which took place in the late days of 2023, I think.
Yeah, it was insane. I think the only footage we have from this is from me, actually, when I was working at the roof, the national broadcast. When I went there and it started shaking, it was before they closed everything up. I even had to talk myself through the police and everything. And we managed to go into the town when everybody was evacuating. And then there was like a specific day that they were supposed to evacuate, and they were like they could go and get their stuff and such. And there were no there are no photos of this or any media coverage.
We have some footage. Me and Art went there with my parents. Because my parents had to evacuate, and I was allowed to go in as a helping hand.
Okay.
So we have I think that's all the footage we got out of it.
Okay, interesting.
We got to go in that way.
But it's sad because like
generally there was no access.
This will obviously be a problem in the future when people are trying to find some footage from this time and they have to call Jónti and whoever like to get them. Or Art Picnic, our good friend.
Yeah, or our great friend Art Picnic. Speaking of things that
who is
make
this
sense.
Art Picnic? It sounds made up, frankly.
It kind of is.
Aren't old
Nobody knows who's Art Picnic is.
Yeah, I suppose that's true.
Old names are made up.
Yeah,
I would like to point it out. Like I wanted to talk about just because it's just funny to me is that there was a news story about how many mosquitoes they had at Mosquito Lake.
Yeah, right.
So in Iceland it's Mývatn. And me is mosquitoes, or a variation called midges, I think?
It's not mosquitoes.
It's not mosquitoes. These do not bite.
Everybody else in the world has very different ideas about mosquitoes and midges.
But have you guys been to Lake
Fly Lake?
Fly Lake. Have you been to Midge Lake in the north in the summer?
That sounds wrong.
Yeah, it sounds wrong. Have you seen these swarms of?
The balls of flies. Yeah.
So they're
disconcerting.
They're having like the greatest.
You ever like woken up in a tent and like swear that you can hear like an electric generator?
Right.
Like, it's like who is that? Who has like a generator going? And then you zip open your tent and there's just like a fucking black ball of flies.
Oh, it's incredible. There's so many midges. Whatever.
Flies. Why can't you say flies? Is it inaccurate?
No.
Like, are we being biologically inaccurate here?
There are so many there
flies?
that they block out the sun. Yeah. And this is the most they've had for like 50 years.
And since we finally have sun in Iceland now, it's suddenly a problem.
Yeah, it's suddenly a problem. Last year it wasn't a problem because there was no sun.
Nope.
Nor any flies, actually. But this is great news for the trout that lives in the lake. There's this ongoing massive buffet for them.
Yeah, right.
Those do not drink human blood. So that's also
the trout.
Yeah, some of it.
Yeah, the flies.
The flies.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm just glad when things in Iceland
I'm glad when things in Iceland don't drink human blood.
And I'm just also glad when things in Iceland live up to their name.
Yeah.
Like Iceland doesn't really do that.
No.
Generally. Reykjavík doesn't really do that either.
You know that big thing in the southeast? That's a fucking glacier, right? You know what that's made of.
Yeah, true. But
how are we not Iceland? Like, I'm sorry. But yeah, I mean, I agree. A more interesting name would have been better.
Yeah. Anyway.
Sorry.
Anything else? Does anybody want to talk about the Tesla that drove to Þórsmörk last week? No.
I was impressed, to be honest.
Do.
Yeah.
I'll talk about anything. I think I've made that pretty clear.
Yeah.
But the Tesla guy was, I don't know, it was just interesting to see like a small car being able to go over these waters, but there was obviously like not much in these rivers, so.
No, they were kind of dried out, but.
So to recap the news story briefly.
Some taxi driver in a Tesla took passengers from, I assume, Reykjavík to a place in the Icelandic Highlands called Þórsmörk, which are kind of
south of Iceland.
South of Iceland, kind of behind or just north of the. We could say it again, Eyjafjallajökull.
Bearing in mind that a taxi ride of this magnitude is gonna like lowball $1,000, right?
Yeah, definitely. And to get to this location, you have to drive through or across rivers.
Yeah.
A few ones who admittedly were kind of dry, but it's a Tesla.
Yeah.
And it's a battery car.
Yeah.
And I thought that was not something you did in that kind of a car. So it was kind of a interesting. I guess the guy who's doing
they're tough.
Hats off to him for like really testing how great his fucking Nazi car really is. Like I feel like there's some bravery there.
Yeah.
You know, he put his money where his mouth was. You know.
Yeah. So it's.
I mean, it feels like this could be a turning point in Elon Musk's like PR campaign.
Yeah, if he had even a shred of intelligence, like he would be looking into something like this of people actually successfully using the car to do shit.
Have you guys noticed or not noticed how he has completely disappeared from the public eye in the past 4 weeks?
Really
everybody has noticed.
It really is kind of like, because it's like on a show when like a new character steps up to be the main guy, and like RFK Jr. has sort of shifted more into focus.
Yeah.
And now he's sort of fading away, and Stephen Miller is kind of. Is it just the press like focusing on different guys, or is it these guys sort of tossing the baton?
Elon Musk.
I mean, I'm assuming they all have some weird drug habit that they're functioning in cycles of a month or so.
Yeah, what is it? So it's ketamine for Elon, and it's what, roadkill for JFK? Sorry, RFK.
Sewage, I believe.
Like raw roadkill.
Yeah, sewage. Some combo thereof.
Pick your drug.
Yeah. And no shots afterwards.
No. Yeah.
But no, I mean, I was just reading The Guardian, and there was a like, fantastic article about Elon Musk. They were talking to like marketing professors and like specialists, and they were just talking about that this was probably like a world record in like self-destruction when it comes to marketing.
It was like impressive. Like every news story, you was like, does he not realize that his name is directly tied to the success of his company? Like, I knew he was a dumbass, but like I assumed because of PayPal that he at least sort of has a semblance of like, you get your name out there and you make it sound good.
And I saw the statistics, and that was interesting, like how much the Tesla sales has fallen since Nazi era. And he's gone like by 80% in Sweden.
Yeah.
Like 80%.
80%.
It's incredible.
And like a market of millions of people, yeah.
I mean, to be honest, I mean, because I'm a nihilist and I don't really care, I was thinking like, I should just go and buy Tesla now. It must be like all-time low, right? But it isn't really. It's the same goddamn price.
So I also saw that I think the Chinese brand BIT or something of electric cars is outselling
Build
Tesla.
Your Dream. Yeah.
Yeah, BIT.
BYD.
BYD is outselling Tesla.
China has been like leading in this now for a few years. They stole this technology from Elon Musk years ago when they were actually had producing their cars in China. It's a famous thing, and they took the batteries, made them battery and made battery cars and much more cheaper and so on. So like the next Hyundai will be like Tesla or something. I don't know.
Yeah, and of course made the crucially wise decision of like not attaching their name to a historically unpopular political leader and then go axe a bunch of social programs. in a nation that is like 50-50 split between.
I mean, China, full respect and all that, like they're still like a communist country and not doing any like they're not doing the best policies and in the world either, and they're probably killing more innocent people every year than MAGA people, but. So it's like, I mean, it is what it is, but they're doing it cheaper.
Yeah.
And
if only the mega people had their own country where they could kill lots of people, perhaps, you're not really giving them a chance. They could be killing so many people.
That is true.
If only they could.
Yeah. If it weren't for like jurisdictions and like judges and such, like laws, like whatever that is. Habeas corpus.
Whatever that means. Yeah.
The right to not be detained without being told why.
Yeah, it's like, like the difference between fascism and not fascism is habeas corpus.
Mm-hmm. Basically, yeah.
Like they're just not getting it. It's incredible.
We've kind of discussed this. Like, we remember when we took this deep dive into the 2014 changes to the Patriot Act, where it was kind of made legal for the U.S. government to detain American citizens on American ground without habeas corpus.
Yeah, I vaguely remember that. I think that was one of the episodes that I was drinking quite heavily on. So I kind of remember.
So the idea, like, there's this strange strain of sort of legalism in America. There's like this need to make everything sort of by the book.
Yeah, right.
So they basically legalized the Gulag.
Yeah,
which is kind of astonishing.
I mean, that's modern times for you.
Yeah, it's modern times. Which being sort of disappeared into the Gulag was never something strictly legal in the Soviet Union, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, even Stalin knew he had to keep them out in Siberia where people couldn't find out.
Right. They had to hide it somehow and not being in the media about it.
Yeah, it tells you something, whereas opposed to the Trump administration was just like, fuck yeah, we sent them to El Salvador.
Here's a selfie of the minister or whatever with all those prisoners in El Salvador.
Yep.
Like,
stew on that, libtards.
Yeah, so Elon Musk is a mess,
Elon Musk is a mess.
But there is definitely an opportunity for PR here, just if he's watching this. That someone drove his Tesla through the toughest areas in Iceland for a car.
Yeah,
and it's astonishing that they made it all the way.
And I gotta say, even considering my contempt for Tesla owners at this point, I am kind of impressed with this guy because, with the amount of bullshit that you have to endure being a Tesla owner and a Tesla driver, like, you should be able to do shit like that. You should be able to, like, drive into a fucking river,
Like stunts. That's a new PR, right?
Yeah,
it's like there's 2 stunts Tesla owners.
Yeah, like, fucking A, man. What have you got to lose?
Yeah.
Give us a Tesla and we'll do a stunt in it.
Like that British guy who drove his tank over the Tesla. Did you watch that?
Yes.
Tank?
It was very satisfying. Some World War II vet.
Yeah, okay. Just in a protest.
No,
yeah, sort of a statement. Yeah,
I just wanted to see what happened.
Yeah,
didn't we all?
So
it was a public service.
For some reason, he has a fully functioning Sherman tank.
It's alarming, to be honest.
I mean, the Sherman tank has better PR than Tesla at this point. Like, let's get real here.
But why? Why does a man have a tank like an individual? It's like, just explain this to me.
I mean, when I was a kid in England, I went at least a couple times to like army surplus shows out in the countryside, and it's just like the shit these dudes still have, just like fucking rocket launchers and all kinds of bombs and guns and.
Yeah,
I mean it's a national treasure. It's a national history. It's like our manuscripts or our fucking God's surveillance tower up on the fucking hill there. It's
that's an episode that was one Pros Etta versus one Sherman tank.
The results exactly what you'd expect.
Yes. No, the manuscript did not prevail.
We're still, fighting to preserve that any way that we can. But the Sherman, that's still gonna be there when the world ends.
And it's a short story. Like I'm asking, like who owns a tank? But there was actually a farmer in Iceland that imported a tank, and Brynja Níelsson, which is like a very controversial character in politics. He used to be a lawyer before, and when I was starting as a journalist. He like picked me and like, hey Valur, like I have this really weird case that you should write about. It's like about a farmer, and they're trying to sentence him for like breaching like laws about weapons because he imported a tank. And I was like, what? Like, okay, like where are you? and I went into the court case, and basically what he did, he bought like these show tanks from the U.S. that they do like in parades and such. So they have like these what do you call it, like the cannon itself. They have like cement in it. And the farmer said like in Iceland, in south of Iceland, it's impossible to drive in the sands and like go and get the seeps and such. So he wanted the tank just to be easier for him to travel around these hard areas that the Tesla can obviously go.
Wouldn't an APC be better than a tank?
I mean, these were like
you can only fit like 5 sheep in a tank.
It was like 2006 or something. I don't know. So he's like he said like this was brilliant. It could go quite fast actually. And was a tank. The guy, I think the guy was actually sentenced for this because they was just said like it's a weapon. I don't know. It's like
we should point out that the
but so is any car.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, not to get all fucking grimdark and shit, but like people are committing terrorist acts with regular ass cars all the time now.
What I would worry about here is the gas.
Yeah, right.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
I mean, this thing gulps up gas.
Literally millions have died in wars just over like how much gas it takes to power tanks.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, I mean, it's like, how do you, as a farmer in Iceland, how can you afford the gas?
I mean, it was 2005 or 6 or something.
It was cheaper back then.
It was cheaper back then, yeah.
Those were the tank buying years.
Yeah, it was like the golden years of tanks.
Missed our shot.
Yeah, and these days you can't even drive like a vintage Cadillac.
Yeah, everyone looks at you. It's just like, oh man, like the money you're pissing away, the things I could spend it on. They just look like assholes. I'm sorry. Like I know they love their cars and they love to show them off. Like I get it, but I'm not sure they realize how they're coming off.
Well, I mean, I enjoy these because they're from an era when cars were still interesting to look at.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was a moment.
There was a moment in time where cars were like aesthetically interesting.
And some people still do think it's interesting for some reason.
But isn't that just like a time factor? I mean, when we look at cars there are still cars driving around from like the early 90s. Sometimes you see them and it's a look, it has its own sort of aesthetic appeal, just because it's not the current look, because you don't see it
that's to an extent true, but there was like more variety. You would have like in the 80s, you would have like the Saab 900. Everything about that car is just odd. and
I thought it was pretty impressive. It was like, was it the car that like got low when you started it, and it was like
could be. It had like even the rims were strange.
Yeah,
like they had like a 3 whatever.
Yeah, it was a crazy design. Someone went like all in.
Yeah,
like, it's on the surface it seems like a really normal car, but like the more you look at it, the weirder it gets, which makes it the perfect car. It was like Jerry Seinfeld's car of choice in the 90s. I mean it's a perfect reflection of him in a way. It just seems normal at first, but the deeper you dig, man.
Yeah, so I feel like maybe that's just mistaken, but I feel like cars now just look more like
the same.
Same. They're all kind of like.
Well, they're all chasing the same
they're all chasing
market. It's all committee driven, isn't it?
But
there's
they're
no
also
ballsy decisions being made.
They also all kind of look like somebody would have envisioned the future in the 90s.
Yeah.
Does that make sense to you? What is the name
of
that?
These are people who grew up in the 90s that are designing them. It sort of makes sense.
What was the Wesley Snipes movie? Demolition Man?
Yeah, right.
They all kind of look like cars from Demolition Man.
Yeah.
And that movie rocked.
Yeah.
That's actually, that's more like an electric car, though. That's like, isn't that a part of the joke of the movie, that everything is electrical or something?
Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
I don't remember.
No, I haven't seen it for decades.
I remember the 3 seashells to wipe your ass, and I remember people like grown-ups were listening to kids' music. I thought that was like an interesting prediction for the future. But I think it was like the Demolition Man, I think, came from this sort of fear of sort of like genericism.
It was a totalitarian, right?
Yeah, it was like post. There was a giant earthquake in
it was a police state. It was like Sylvester Stallone was the bad guy, right?
You weren't allowed to swear. I mean, Stallone was the good guy in the end. Snipes was the terrorist.
Yeah, but the terrorist in American movies is actually always the one that is fighting for freedom.
Yeah, and there was a subplot.
The hero is always trying to keep things unchanged.
There was a subplot in Demolition Man with, I think, Dennis Leary was like the leader of this underground group that in the end they found out they weren't so bad. They just wanted things to be a little bit like the old days when people could swear and use toilet paper and whatnot.
Well, are you guys?
Yeah, they use clams.
Do we have to?
Yeah. The three seashells, man.
Do we have to rewatch this movie and see if it was actually a good prediction?
I watch it like every year.
Wow.
All
Okay.
right. I haven't seen it since 1995.
Yeah, I think it's same here.
No, and truthfully, I don't think I've seen it for 10 years. But there are certain sort of cultural benchmarks in it. There was like this really weird thing where every restaurant was Taco Bell, but for the European release of the videotape, which is what most people saw here, obviously, they changed the restaurant to be like Pizza Hut, I think.
Oh.
And it created this weird Mandela effect thing where people were arguing about it online before this came to light. Because I think like the way that distribution was done back then, even the people who made the movie didn't know about this until afterwards.
Like the ultimate gaslighting.
Yeah.
Pizza Hut? No, it's Taco Bell.
Yeah.
And also like when we had one Pizza Hut in Iceland, and I was like what is this? Like this isn't even that good.
Oh, I love Pizza Hut.
Yeah, Pizza Hut.
I miss Pizza Hut.
It was in one of those hotels, Hotel Nordica.
Oh.
There was the Pizza Hut in Sprengisandur for a minute
right.
there, yeah.
Right.
My good friend Ole worked there, and like every time when I would come pick him up at the end of his shift, and we would go home and
eat pizza.
Eat pizza.
Is Pizza Hut not defunct?
In Iceland?
Yeah. I don't even
I
know.
don't know. Was it ever here? Are we just imagining this?
No,
It was actually
right.
a Taco Bell.
Yeah. God damn it! I knew it. There was Taco Bell here for like a hot minute.
Yeah.
They gave it a shot.
It's with KFC, right?
Yeah, there's still a Taco Bell in Hafnarfjörður, right?
Yeah, I mean Hafnarfjörður, they really like their fast food.
Yeah,
they do.
Yeah,
but
they take it a bit more
I
seriously
have a
than we
thing
do.
like I'm told people like Taco Bell somewhere, but it always just smells like dog food.
I never got this.
I don't get it.
I tried. I think you have to grow up with it. I think it's just like one of those things.
Yeah.
I think it's like like explaining the licorice thing to foreigners.
So it's kind of like dog food. You have to sort of
explain it.
Yeah.
You have to convince someone to eat it, even pay them.
Or you have to make sure they can't eat anything else. That works for the dogs.
Yeah, that's the totalitarian. Yeah, I'm done with English.
We could we're basically run out of time here. We could have talked about Climeworks. We could have talked about Samherji. We could have like dived into some serious things here because you were.
I would rather talk about Demolition Man than any of those things. To be perfect.
I'm very glad that we used 10 minutes of this for Demolition Man, but not for Samherji.
Yeah, I agree. And then
it does deserve coverage, but I feel like this Climeworks thing has been. People are covering it in depth elsewhere.
We talked about Climeworks on the last episode actually for like 15 minutes.
Oh, okay.
And I know there's been some development in that story since. Got picked up by the Guardian, right?
Oh,
and there have been some layoffs at the.
There are around 106 people laid off. Yeah, they are.
So to reiterate, Climeworks is a Swiss company that operates a carbon capture facility in Iceland as sort of a...
And it's said to be the biggest one in the world, but me and Bjartmar, we broke the news, of course, where we used their own numbers. We found their own numbers, actually, and it's only it's around 2,400 tons that they have captured in like 3 years. It's nothing. It's very small for what they say they can get, actually. But it's about a bigger debate, actually. It's about like the path forward, and
in terms of like
when it comes to the climate issue in general. This industry has been quite like they've taken their space a lot in this. People are not like we're always talking about we have to innovate ourselves out of the crisis.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, we've already innovated ourselves out of this crisis. Yeah. It's not that's not the problem actually. We got the wind, we got the solar energy and everything. Even like in Europe, we have record high numbers when it comes to producing green energy. Mm-hmm. We have never done this in so much way. China is doing incredible. They have gotten their goals have been achieved for 2030. Which is, I mean, if they can do it, I mean, there is no reason that we can't do it. But for some reason, we're putting like hundreds of billions in this krona, that is, into this industry. But it's not, it hasn't been tested like to be very sufficient. And that's what basically we're trying to say. And this is like a debate on like, in the scientific communities. And a lot of companies, of course, hate us right now. We are absolutely loathed by some, and it's a little bit like a turtleneck cult, you know, like with Steve Jobs, thing. It's like there are smart people there, of course, but there's also like a cultish kind of a hype around it.
Yeah, I guess. I
feel like the people saying we have to innovate our way out of climate change are usually being paid by big corporations who should be lifting more of the load.
Yeah.
By just doing it the old-fashioned way.
I mean, the companies, they do whatever they can do. Like if they're allowed to do something, they will do it. That's just capitalism for you, and there is nothing wrong with that in any sense. Just don't hurt anyone in the progress. But when it comes to governments, they are failing quite drastically in this element, in our opinion, of course.
Yeah, they gotta regulate it.
They need to regulate this quite harshly.
Yeah, and I mean, to try to like make some sort of a counter argument here, I guess these attempts to capture CO2 from the atmosphere and to dispose of it they're still scientifically and in practice in their infancy. Yeah. So I guess the jury is a bit still out whether or not this is actually possible or feasible, and that's to an extent also normal. But what you guys were pointing out was that the results so far have not really matched the rhetoric or the sort of predictions of the companies themselves. Which may or may not be like that might actually be kind of normal, or maybe it's not, but it's at least something to report on.
Yeah, I mean, the general concept is that this might be of use in 2050, 60, 70, after we have phased out the oil and gas and such, and we have green energy. Then perhaps this can make sense, even help and so on. Nothing wrong with that. We could even have like completely different technology at that time. Yep. And so on. So yeah, sure. And the thing is, we don't really care. Like if there is a private companies and such, it doesn't really matter to us that much. But the thing is that for some reason, taxpayers are mostly paying for all of this. For some reason, it's not the market that is paying for a lot of this. For example, like when it comes to Climeworks, of course. They've been lucky. There have been a lot of investment in that company, but they, for example, wanted to have $500 million capture enterprise, capture like a machine in Louisiana in the U.S. And this would all be like public money, and therefore it's up in the arms because the fantastic committee called DOGE, which Americans absolutely love, I've heard. They are basically telling that perhaps these 500 million should go somewhere else because, for example, the Americans are now watching. Their next reality is that they're taking their health, Medicare, Medicaid off them from them.
Was cut.
It hasn't gone through the parliament completely. It has been
but it's gone through the house. No, not the house.
Either the house or the other thing.
Sorry,
the Senate?
No, not the Senate. The other thing,
the House of Representatives.
Yes, it's gone through the House of Representatives. It's predicted to cut. I think was it 13 or 15 million people from Medicaid.
Yeah, and this is obviously like.
Whereas while introducing massive tax breaks to the rich.
Yes, and just to like make it clear, I mean, I think it feels like Americans are like quite like not very. I don't want to say stupid, but they're not reading a lot when it comes to how these things works. For example, with the DOGE, like all of this money that they are like grabbing here and there, it's not much in the context of like how much it costs just to have a state. No. But if you're going to do this in a meaningful way, there are two ways to cut down. This with education, which I'm not sure that the Americans need to do or like can afford to do. And then you have the health sector.
Yeah, and God forbid they cut the army.
Or the army. That's the other thing. So I mean, it's like drink your poison. So
pick your poison and then drink it.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're out of time now. Thank you for dropping by and covering for your coworker Arsted.
Yeah.
Good to see you again.
Thanks for having us.
And tell him
show
him to enjoy himself, whatever he's really doing.
Should we show Pollý?
Yeah, here I'm gonna Pollý.
Ready? Yeah. Hvað segir
Oh.
Yeah. Hi. There she is.
There she is.
Some people that miss her, perhaps.
I think they do. Well,
but perhaps we'll come back. Who knows?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We we'll if nothing else works, we'll simply poison Arsted.
Yes. Well,
like we did for today.
Yeah,
shouldn't have said that. Yeah.
Arsted is hilarious. Actually, he's always like complaining that like everybody is trying to get him to have an opinion. He's like he's the least opinionated man that I've met in my life. He really doesn't care. It's like I really don't care about this.
I mean, you like nihilism. Right?
Yeah. I love this point of view. I mean, it's like what
whatever.
what I think it's actually
he's not incensed when people do corrupt and weird things. He expects it.
Yeah.
and I think
which is in a way the darkest take you can possibly have.
And as an investigative journalist, I think he does not risk burning out, because people burn out because they're so
invested
idealistic.
And idealistic. He is not, and he's gonna have a long and great career with his general disposition towards human behavior.
And one can only hope that he will continue to find time in his busy schedule to come, sit here with us for an hour every week.
I think actually it's like a professional disease actually for a journalist that like slowly you just don't care.
Yeah, you end up giving
like you just think about like what are the logics here and so on. It becomes like math. It's like a really like cold math.
Yeah, I mean, it's also kind of I guess a survival mechanism.
Yeah.
If you want to survive in this, you can't do it if you're always sort of depressed by the things you're covering. That's gonna ruin your will to live.
Well, yeah.
Well,
I'm depressed enough reading about that.
I mean,
I can't even read either of your old papers.
On the theme of not feeling like living another day.
Here's wishing you a happy rest of your life.
Yeah, thanks for listening or watching. We have been Iceland Roundup, and see you guys later.
See you guys next time. Bye.